Hey everyone, Naima here. Welcome back to another episode. Today I'm going to give you a crash course in how to track your period and your menstrual cycle. So I just want to say at the very beginning here that we live in this day and age where we have all these different apps and ways about tracking our menstrual cycle. And when you start to look at those apps, there's over 100 different symptoms and things that you can begin tracking. It can feel super overwhelming at the beginning. And this is a big concern I get from other women when it comes to learning how to track your cycle, is knowing if you're doing it right, or there's so much to track and just feeling overwhelmed with it all, etc. And I just want to say right now that this is more about building a new habit more than anything else. Building and forming a new habit and taking a few minutes each day to tune in to notice and mark down a few of your body's markers and symptoms is what's going to begin giving you the foundation of learning how to chart your cycle more effectively and charting more symptoms and markers, okay? So it's just the beginning about forming a new habit and choosing just 1 to 3 things to begin tracking. And this is my big advice for anybody who's new to cycle tracking, is I want you to track 1 to 3 things and that's it. And this is where the beauty of fertility awareness method comes in, because essentially that's what it is. You're tracking your body's 3 main biomarkers. You're just tracking 3 things, that's all. And then as you get more interested, you can go deeper into tracking physical symptoms and emotional symptoms and etc. Okay? So when it comes to fertility awareness method, essentially the idea is tracking your body's changes over the menstrual cycle. We as women go through periods of wetness and dryness and heating and cooling, similar to that of the Earth's surface, because we are a fertile Mother Earth being. And so the 3 main biomarkers that are charted in fertility awareness method are essentially charting and noticing when you're in your fertile time and when you're not. That's the basis of it, okay? These 3 main biomarkers are your basal body temperature, your cervical mucus, and your cervical position and texture. So let's go one by one. The basal body temperature is number 1. This is your temperature upon waking up in the morning, before any activity, before you get up or pee or have sex or do anything. You just grab your thermometer and you take your temperature and you write that down. Your basal body temperature is going to be lower in the first half of a healthy menstrual cycle, and then it raises after ovulation, and it's higher in the second half of your menstrual cycle. And that occurs because if your body were to conceive, the body needs to be a little bit higher in temperature to create a more hospitable environment for that embryo to grow. So that's one of the main things that the basal body temperature is showing you, is when you ovulate, if you are ovulating, and when that change happens, okay? So that's number 1, the basal body temperature. Number 2 is you're checking your cervical fluids or mucus. This is the quality of the fluids that are coming out from your cervix, just like it sounds like. And these fluids as well go through changes over the course of your cycle, going from 1 at the beginning of your cycle when you're bleeding, and then after that, going through phases of dryness and wetness and stickiness, or textures of lotiony. So it's noticing whether there's fluid or not, and then what quality is that fluid. Is it creamy? Is it egg whitey? Is it just kind of sticky? Is there nothing at all? And again, that's giving you information about your fertile window and when you're infertile. The last method is, or the last biomarker is your cervical sensation and position. So the cervix actually raises and lowers in the vaginal canal slightly throughout the course of the menstrual cycle. It's higher in the vaginal canal when you're around your ovulatory time, and it's lower in the vaginal canal all the rest of the time. So you're noticing the height of the cervix in the vaginal canal, and then it's noticing the sensation of the cervix as well. And it's actually reaching up and touching your cervix with your finger. And your cervix will actually change in sensation, going from feeling more hard, kind of like the tip of your nose, to feeling softer, almost like your earlobe. And the hole in the middle of the cervix, that part of us that may eventually dilate to allow the passage of a baby, that os will actually also open and close slightly as well throughout the course of your menstrual cycle based on where you're at. So when you go to take an observation of your cervix, you're checking for its height in the vaginal canal, what sensation it is it soft, is it hard? And then you're noticing that opening in the middle of it, the os, to see if it's a little bit dilated or not. So these are the 3 main biomarkers, and that right there might seem like a lot, just noticing those 3. So for those of you who are wanting to start charting with fertility awareness method, I advise you to start with the first 2 biomarkers of taking your temperature every day and just starting to notice the quality of your cervical fluids. Checking your cervix is kind of the 3rd one that I would advise for you to add in once you kind of have those 2 down pat and you have a good habit with them and you're doing them consistently. Also, because checking your cervix, it just takes a little bit more practice to notice. Most of us have never touched our cervixes. So finding out where your cervix is in the first place, and then it takes a few cycles for you to really consistently be checking to notice, is it hard, is it soft, what does it feel like when I'm around my ovulatory time, etc. So for those of you that are wanting to start here, start with those first 2 and build the habit with that. And just start recording your temperature, recording what your cervical fluids are like, and go from there. And there are a lot of different ways to chart your cycle. You can use a pen and paper method, or you can use an app. There's a lot of different apps out there. I do stand behind apps. Kandara is my favorite. I do recommend that if you're going to use an app, to go into your app's settings and make sure you turn off any and all predictions. And this is why I like Kandara too, because you don't want the app to be interpreting and guessing you. You want to be inputting data into your app and then analyzing and reading that data. You are not a computer, you are not an algorithm, you are a unique human being that changes from cycle to cycle based on so many different factors in your life. And if an app is trying to predict you, it's not taking all that into consideration, and that's where people can sometimes end up getting pregnant on accident, etc., and not just getting accurate information in general. So if you want to use an app, make sure you're inputting the data. If you want to use a paper chart, that's awesome. I know that in the Take Charge of Your Fertility book, there's a page in there that you can copy and print off and start using that. I want to show you a little example of my chart that I use because I'm still a pen and paper kind of gal. So here you can see that at the top here, I have a column where it says the cycle day, and then I input the actual date that's happening in the calendar. Down below that, I'm recording when I have sex, when I have intercourse. And then down below that, I'm here in this main chart recording my basal body temperature, or my waking temperature. And as you can see here, in the first half of my cycle, my temperatures are in a lower range. And then this is in my fertile ovulatory window. And after that, my temperatures are higher. So I'm in the second half of my cycle leading up to bleeding again. Down below here, I'm tracking my vaginal sensation, whether I feel dry or wet, just putting a D or a W. I'm tracking my cervix, the location of it, whether the os is closed or medium open or all the way open. And then I'm recording the sensation of the cervix, whether it feels firm or medium or soft. Down below in this last column, I'm choosing to track my cervical fluids and mucus. I write down a little bit about my blood when I'm bleeding. How thick is it? Do I have clots? Is it red, etc.? And then I move on to begin tracking the quality of my cervical fluids as I move through the cycle, whether they're sticky or creamy or watery or egg white, etc. And then down below, you can record other things as well if you wanted to. This is where fertility awareness method gets into a lot of different, where you can track a lot of different biomarkers. And I like to track things like when I'm doing my breath work or if I'm exercising, etc. And you can track whatever else you want to, your emotional or feeling states, or whether you have sore breasts or digestive issues, or you're just feeling great and happy one day. So tracking your cycle can go as little or as deep as you want it. Sometimes the best place to start is just tracking when you're bleeding, and that's it. And then over time, adding more and more in there. I really love fertility awareness method. I really stand up behind it, and I'm excited for you to begin tracking your cycle and learning more about your body. If you like this video, please do like it and subscribe to my channel so more people like you can find this video, and I hope you have a beautiful time tracking.